to Conversations with Lara Wentworth. Today on Conversations, I have Ricky Raad with me, who is going to talk to us about some really exciting things he's doing around the legal system and what he calls the ecosystem of the legal system. He's been described as a bit of a thought leader around this subject, and I'm very excited to have you here with me, Ricky, to talk to you a little bit more about what you've got going on.
Thank you so much.
So tell us a little bit more about this legal ecosystem that you talk about. What do you mean by that?
I've referred to the legal ecosystem a lot recently, and probably the last 2-3 years, it's been a really big kind of term for me. I found that for us lawyers, we live in this little sphere of these rules and regulations that govern us and just how things are always done. And for us, it's quite normal. But whenever I speak to someone outside the legal landscape, family, friends, and I'm telling them about what we're going through, the looks I get from them and the things that, you know, to us it's status quo and it's normal, get these really weird looks. How does that make sense? That doesn't sound right. And I've been having these conversations for a long time, and you know, we all have the same frustrations in law. When I'm having these conversations with people, they're saying to me, "Yeah, that doesn't sound right. Why is that the case?" And it's challenged me quite a bit to think about, why is it the case? You know, that's how it's always been done. And I think, from my understanding anyway, that's why we've been doing it, because that's the way it's always been done, and that's the way that it needs to be done. But I really kind of stopped and thought about kind of the ways we're doing things, and I said, well, this and this and this I agree with, because I can see the benefits of doing that, but this and this, why are we still doing it this way for? There are better ways of doing this, or there are more efficient ways of doing that.
Yeah.
And you know, initially that was met with quite a lot of you know, it was confronting.
Yeah.
Especially when I would bring that up with executive members and principals of firms to say, why we're doing it this way, and you could kind of see the cogs turning in their mind to, you know, this is how we've always done it. So then you would have these people who kind of operated outside this legal ecosystem, and I would think, like, I know you're definitely one of them, and I did have a couple of associates who were like that, and they'd say, you know what, that's right, that is the way we've always done it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's the way it should be done.
Yeah.
And so I think it's given me a lot of insight into what we're doing well, what needs improving. I'm not saying what we're doing wrong, but what needs improving. And that's this whole notion of this ecosystem, because it definitely is our own reality.
Yeah.
I think it needs to be shifted.
Yeah, and I think it's a great concept that you speak about. And you're fairly, you're fairly young, and you've been practicing for about 5 years, and you've recently started your own law firm, a commercial law firm. So tell me, sort of what spurred you on to start your own law firm so new in the game?
I knew I always wanted to have my own law firm, and truth be told, initially it was, I want to have my little baby, and I want to have a great team around me, and I want to have like-minded people, and I want to have a little family, and I just want to dominate the legal landscape with these guys. But as you can tell, it was a very I want, this is what I'm after. And I'd say the last 3 to 4 years had a bit of a shift. So I've been practicing for 5 years, but been fortunate enough to be in the legal, profession for about 10 or 9. And had a bit of a shift because seeing what was happening in the legal landscape and seeing things that I thought needed improving, my shift went from this is what I want to this is what I want, in addition to this is what I think the legal environment, the legal landscape needs. And that was really liberating for me, because the whole reason of opening up my firm was no longer about me, and it was about something a lot bigger than me, which was about changing the legal landscape and changing the ecosystem. And I love that. I love the fact of now it's beyond me, it's beyond my little team, it's beyond what I want to do. Now it's about what legacy do I want to leave, and what legacy am I trying to build here. So yeah, that's the whole point of starting the firm.
So, I mean, you know, what you're talking about is quite profound, and it usually comes on a little bit later in life. So it's very interesting that you found it sort of so early, which is great, because you'll have a lot of time to do stuff with it. Because when we sort of contribute, when we have that need to contribute to our profession, our society, our community, you know, that's usually a need that we feel a little bit later on in life once our own human needs have been met. So it's really, really good. It's actually really refreshing to see. But I'm interested in, you know, you've spoken quite a bit about the things that you would like to change, you know, the way we've been doing things for so long and now doing it differently. So talk me through a little bit more detail about what is it that you want to do differently? What is it in the status quo that you are actually challenging? And I have a feeling it has something to do with the name of the firm. So tell us a bit more about that.
It does. Initially, when I started R Legal, everyone said, I love the R represents Ricky. And actually the R doesn't represent Ricky. The R represents kind of the whole concept behind R Legal, which is revolutionizing the way of practice and revitalizing the way of practice. And I think the other R word was reinvigorating, I believe it was.
Yep.
During coming up with my marketing ideas, I had every R word under the sun. Yeah, that's basically what the firm stands for. That's what that big R is. And, you know, when I was talking about what I wanted to change, the methodology that I took was, I guess, a bit unorthodox. I reverse engineered the current state of the legal ecosystem. So I've been fortunate enough to work for boutique firms and top tier firms, and having experience in working across the whole industry, I was able to have a look and see what's being done well and what needs improving. To me, client satisfaction has always been at the forefront. Now, client satisfaction on a deeper level, every client's going to be happy if you offer the best service with the cheapest rate. So it wasn't just the most, you know, what exactly is a client, what do they want, save money. It was more on a deeper level, which is lawyers, I say this all the time, that we're glorified problem solvers. That's what we are. And when our clients are contacting us, you know, they contact us with problems. That's all we hear as lawyers are just problems. Now, it is a bit of a different concept, but, you know, my goal in life is never to have a problem. It's to have challenges. And I say that because I feel a problem is a problem because you don't know how to address it and how to fix it, hence being a problem. And I think as lawyers, I've kind of changed that mindset to say, well, these are all challenges. Everything that comes my way, it's a challenge. We know how to fix it. It's just about the best way to fix it. And I say I mean that. I say that to my clients, which is, you know, to date, regardless of how complex the issue is, they're saying it's a big problem. I said, it's not a problem. It's a challenge that we just need to work through, because we all know what the answer is. We know how to effectively address it, but may not be in the best interest of you, may not be in the best interest of them. So how best can we address this?
Okay. It sounds like you've got a really good handle on communicating with clients in an effective way to sort of get the message across to them. Would you say, what are some of the skills that you'd say that you have that will allow you to revolutionize and revitalize the way that you practice, or the way that the law profession is?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's not rocket science, and I'm going to go with it's open communication and transparency. And I know it sounds so simple, but you know, I think you can attest to this as well. It's so uncommon in the legal industry, and generally, but I know with us it's quite uncommon. What I do with my clients is everything's very open. It's very transparent. And when I say open, it's to the point of starting from the start of the matter to the end of the matter. This is what we're going to do. This is what the anticipated fees are going to be. This is the schedule of work, which I imagine we're going to need to do. You know, and like I was saying earlier, when we reverse engineer the whole process, the couple of complaints or comments, feedback you get from clients were, if you quote X amount, keep it at X amount. That's generally for transactional litigations, obviously different. But can you keep it at that amount? And if it's going to go over, generally that's fine, but let me know beforehand. And if it is going to go over, why did it go over? Did work come up that we didn't anticipate? Was there a bit of a delay from someone's part? So, and I found in my experience anyway, keeping the lines of communication open to say, this is how much I think the whole matter is going to be. This is what's going to happen. And then if it inevitably goes over, to get on the phone or send them an email beforehand. Generally get on the phone, probably better than email. Yeah, and just letting them know this is what's going on. They're very understanding.
Yeah.
So yeah, just keeping the lines of communication open and transparency.
Yeah, I often say, Ricky, and this is something that I found to be true in my experience, is that, you know, clients will remember the way that they felt whilst dealing with you more than anything else.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
so I always say, you know, as lawyers, we're no longer in the business of selling knowledge or even legal expertise. You know, we are in the business of selling experiences.
Yeah, definitely.
And so, and sometimes, despite the result, like, you know, sometimes you don't have control over the result. You know, it is what it is. You might draw really, you know, a judge that's not going to give you what you want or whatever. But even in those circumstances, if a client feels valued, heard, understood, communicated with, they will still walk away with a valuable experience and a good feeling that they'll remember and refer people. So that's spot on what you've got going on there. So I'm curious about one thing, and I like to ask a lot of people that I have these conversations with about well-being, because it's one of those things that you know, is quite important in our profession. It's not always kind of at the forefront of people's minds and lawyers' practices, but it should be. So I'm just curious, what are some of the things you do to maintain your mental well-being, and what will you be doing to maintain and promote your staff's well-being?
My own well-being is it's quite simple for me. I do a lot of physical activity. I find that helps, just really from an endorphin point of view. I love that, exercising.
Yep.
But when I come to, you know, the work type of things, what am I doing at work? I know that I'm at work for 10, 12 hours a day at times. So I need to make this little space of mine as comfortable to me as I can. Now, I love my music. I've constantly got my music playing. It's all instrumental. It calms me down. And for me, that's really helpful.
Yeah.
More importantly, just the mental shift from problem to challenge helps me out a significant amount. Now, if something does come across my desk, you know, initially when you're starting out in practice, if it's a situation you don't know how to deal with, heart rate goes up. What are they going to think? Start questioning my own competency, and my, you know, the imposter syndrome starts coming out.
Yeah.
And you know, with time, you kind of get that confidence and to say, look, you know what, I had that problem last time and I dealt with it. I had that problem last time. We'll challenge. And and just realizing you start backing yourself a lot more. You start seeing what you can and can't do. And the big thing with me, and I've always been open to it from day one, is if I don't know how to do something, I put my hand up and say, I don't know how to do this. And I'll speak to people, speak to the partners, speak to more senior solicitors, people who've had experience in it. And I've always been open to asking thousands of questions.
Yeah.
It's never been an ego thing for me. It's never been I wonder how it's going to look. I don't care how it's going to look. I'm asking the question, and if you can help me, that's great.
It's all about growing at the end of the day, and you can't you know, grow if you don't put your hand up and ask for help, because you need to learn from people around you. So it's really, like I said, I keep saying this about you, it's very refreshing to hear this stuff. And you must be backing yourself to start your own law firm, especially now in the midst of a pandemic. So what's going on there? Tell us about some of the challenges that you're facing. Why now?
Do you know what, Lara? It's actually a blessing in disguise starting at this time. I think it was days after I finally received all the confirmation from the Law Society, and I kind of went, okay, I can't wait to do this. It's showtime. And news.com, with the TV outside, the radio, it's a global pandemic. Everything's been shut down. And, there was no, I think we've spoken about this before, the whole internal locus of control, external locus of control, and whether, oh my God, just my luck. I did not think that at all. I just thought, here's a great opportunity for myself. I don't see myself as a lawyer and then my clients' business are over here. It's, I'm an extension of my clients' businesses. That's what I am. I consider myself a resource to them, and they consider me a resource. So when all this happened, I said, well, they're all going to be going through a lot of problems right now, a lot of uncertainty. And now's the time that they need to know that I'm behind them, supporting them. So I got on the phone with all of my clients and to let them know that it's unprecedented times. We all know this. There's a lot of uncertainty here. We're going to get through this. And, you know, the government are doing what they can to give out some regulations and some guides. And, you know, it's the Wild West right now. And I love that. I love the fact that it's unprecedented times. It's, no one knows what to do. And I go, that's good. I flourish in that situation, in that environment.
Yeah.
And I like that because, you know, as lawyers, we're so guided by precedent and legislation and history.
Certainty.
Yes,
we love
exactly.
certainty. Yeah.
We really do.
Yeah.
And I like the uncertainty because it's look, here's the legislation. Let's throw it out the window. Let's get together and what do you want? What do you want? What's the best way we can do with this?
Yeah.
And it's been really good. It's strengthened a lot of the relationships with landlords and tenants and parties to a contract.
Yeah.
And me, myself, you know, and I think you'd find this as well, Lara, this pandemic period, for me anyway, this is not the time to be thinking about the dollar and be thinking about how much money is going to come in. This is the time to be establishing stronger bonds with your clients, maybe things that you didn't have time to do beforehand, just pick up the phone and give them a call. How's everything going? How are things financially? How are things emotionally? You know, and there's a lot of stress happening right now. You know, I think you can't see the qualifications behind me, but I think I'm now a psychologist and psychiatrist and everything else now because I've got clients for me, and from an hour phone call, 45 minutes is just them telling me about how much stress they're under and just what the uncertainty is doing to them. And the rest of the conversation about, okay, anyway, back to business. How are we going to do this?
Yeah.
It's been a good time.
Yeah.
For myself and the firm. But there are challenges, and the challenges are financial challenges from the client's perspective, which is I need advice, I need help.
Yeah.
But we've had to effectively shut down shop.
Yeah.
I know legal services aren't cheap, aren't free. You know, how can we work here? And it's been a challenge for them. It hasn't been a challenge for me. My intention is to be in business with my clients for a long time. If I need to, you know, say to them, don't worry about that for the meantime. Let's just work about getting your company back on its feet, and let's work on getting ways to, you know, working on ways to continue operating. That's more important to me than charging hours of my time to fix this. So yeah, and it's been good.
It's more about the relationships, I suppose, that you're building, which is I dare say will be a great foundation for you to build your firm on, because everything's built on relationships. So it sounds like a winner.
And Lara, you did say to me last time during our conversation, you said if your firm can survive this.
I was just going to say that again. I was going to say
that is so true.
Exactly.
Exactly.
If you can start a firm in during a pandemic and make it, you know, successful, then you know you've got it. You've got it.
Absolutely.
And we've had conversations, you and I, before, and I wanted to sort of bring home some of the stuff that you were talking about in terms of how you see the future of the legal profession. You know, from a young lawyer's perspective, you know, we do, as you know, the older generation, we are stuck in our ways to some extent, and we don't like change as much. We're scared of risk and all that sort of stuff. And so when, you know, the younger generation comes through, this young talent that says, hey guys, you're doing it all wrong, let me show you, let us show you how to do things, we get a little bit, whoa, hang on a minute, back down. So I want to hear from you about the future of the profession. You know, from your perspective, how would you like to see the ecosystem, if you like, of the legal profession changed for the better? What's your vision?
First and foremost, I really do want to see a massive shift to acknowledging and working on mental health in the legal profession.
Yeah.
It seems to me that it's been spoken about for a while, and there's articles about it, and people acknowledge its existence, acknowledge, you know, the rates of mental illness in the legal profession.
Yeah.
High anxiety, high depression, and we're all talking about it. And I feel like it's all right. This is real. This is actually happening. Okay. Next order of business is. And I feel like, hold on, stop. We've addressed that. It's now time to incorporate some methods.
Yeah.
Exactly. Unfortunately, however we want to look at it, I deal with a lot of students and a lot of junior lawyers, and I hear just the same comments from them all the time about what they're going through, and they all think they're the only ones going through it, and questioning their own competency and questioning, is this for me? They started off so ambitious and so driven and determined, and they loved the legal industry and they loved wanting to be a lawyer. But because of, and it's not being done on purpose, but because it's certain ways and certain structures in place now within the legal profession, it can be very deflating for them. And there's, what I found anyway is when I'm having conversations with these people who are going through these tough times, and I'll just say to them, this is what I went through. You just see their face light up. Not happy that I went through it, but thank goodness someone else has gone through that. And I mean, I'm an open book. I'm happy to talk about what I've gone through. If I can help one person by talking about what I've gone through, then so be it. And so I really want to see more open dialogue, open conversations, just about what it is that we're going through. Why am I feeling this way? And it differs, and that's really important. I've worked with people who they've had this high anxiety and high stress because they didn't feel like they were being properly supervised, as opposed to other people who are going this high stress and high anxiety because they've got this six hours a day that they need to bill, and they're not getting to that number. Not for any fault of their own. It's not like they've got stacks of work there and they're just not getting to it just because the work's just not there for that day, for that week, that month. And they're just putting all this pressure and stress on themselves. And to say to them, look, this is a guide. We've said you need to make 6 hours a day because that's how budgets work, and that's how this, and we're running a business, so we need to talk, say things like productivity and how much money everyone needs to be making to run a successful company. But I think there's too much of a focus on this number being so correlated to your self-worth and your ability. Success. Absolutely. So the big shift that I'd like to see is a lot of more mental health initiatives being in place. And I think now's a good time to say this, Lara. I take my hat off to you because you've attained that level of success and making it in the legal profession as per the strict guidelines of this is what it takes to make it, and you've well and certainly achieved that. And it's been so great for me to see and watch your content, because you backed yourself more than anyone to say, I need to be the change that I want to see in the legal ecosystem, that word again. And for you to just kind of go out on your own and really go above and beyond to make sure that this is at the forefront of the legal space. I love that so much. It's so great. And when I'm watching it, I'm thinking, there is someone else out. Okay, fantastic. It's actually happening. And it gets me excited because I do see that's where I want the legal environment to be heading in. But now I'm seeing things that are being done and we're getting there. So thank you, first and foremost.
You're too kind. And I thank you too for being so receptive and also being the change that you want to see as well, because that's what you're doing with our legal. And look, I for one will be watching you and watching what you do with the firm, because I think this is really where we need to be. This is the future, and we need more people like you, because it's at the end of the day, it's about leadership, and we need really strong leadership in this profession to change a bit of the status quo, or challenge the way we think and change the culture, because it's not working the best at the moment. So it'd be nice to change things. So look, thank you so much, Ricky, for being with me. Again, I'm going to say the same word I say every time I speak to you, and that's refreshing. Thank you for this refreshing conversation. All the best with our legal. We will be watching you, and I'm going to say that I knew him right at the start, so I'm going to claim that one. when you're running this really, massive law firm that does things differently. But seriously, all the best with it all, and I wish you all the success. And, we might see you around again on this on these conversations.
Hopefully.
All right.
Thanks, Lara.
No problem. Thank you.
Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.